political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The Prime Minister Sefi Gharieb has received the Secretary General of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, GECF, Philip Mshelbila, and the members of his accompanying delegation. On the sidelines of the Arab Consultative Meeting and the Arab League Council he attended in Amman, Jordan, Mr. Ahmed Attaf has met with the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, Ms. Kaya Kayas. The UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, CRC, has warned against the alarming deterioration of the protection of the Palestinian children on account of the restrictions imposed by Israeli occupying authorities to human rights defense organizations in the occupied Palestinian territories. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm your host, Masoud Sharfi. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has inaugurated the 57th edition of the Algiers International Fair held at the PAM Maritime Exhibition Hall. President Tebboune visited the Pavilion of Spain, which is the guest of honor of this year's edition, held under the slogan Confidence and Stability for a Sustained Growth. Several Spanish economic enterprises, along with other foreign companies, are taking part in the fair. A detailed presentation was made by the Interior Trade Minister before President Tebboune visited the National Defense Ministry's stand, where he was given explanations about the different military industries and production structures of the People's National Army. Later on, the President of the Republic visited the Pavilion of Chad, Tunisia, and Oman, who were represented by several companies activating in different sectors. The International Fair of Algiers, which is to last until June 27th, is considered a major event marked by a record participation of over 780 national and foreign companies. It reflects the country's economic dynamism and translates Algeria's will to promote the national production and reinforce partnership and investment. The Secretary General of the Foreign Affairs Ministry, Lounas Megraman, has received Spain's Secretary of State for Foreign and Global Affairs, Diego Martinez Bello, now on an official visit here. The meeting centered on how to reinforce the relations of friendship and partnership linking Algeria to Spain in the cultural, trade, economic, and political fields. It also focused on mechanisms of bilateral cooperation set for this year's first semester and exchanged views on topical issues and regional and international questions. The Spanish Secretary of State's visit is part of the 57th edition of the Algiers International Fair held under the patronage of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. The Prime Minister Sefi Gharieb has received the Secretary General of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, GECF, Philip Mshelbila, and the members of his accompanying delegation. More details with Mohamed Khatel.
The meeting, attended by the State Minister for Hydrocarbons, Mohamed Al-Qab, focused on the implementation of the 7th Summit of Heads of State and Government of Gas Exporting Countries held here in March 2024, particularly regarding the activation of the Gas Research Institute hosted by Algeria. Emphasis was placed on enabling the institute to serve as an international center for research, capacity building, and expertise exchange, and as an actor supporting member states in addressing emerging challenges facing the gas industry. The discussions also covered the Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline project, which has entered the implementation phase, and the support of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum for this strategic initiative, given its importance for international energy security. The Prime Minister said the project reflects the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune's vision for an African energy partnership based on integration, solidarity, and mutual interests, in line with the African Union Agenda 2063 and aimed at strengthening South-South cooperation and African integration.
The Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, has taken part in Amman, Jordan, in the 165th session of the Ministerial Council of the Arab League, which has resumed. Again with Mohamed Khatel.
During the meeting, Egyptian diplomat Nabil Fahmy was appointed Secretary General of the Arab League in replacement of Ahmed Abul Ghait, whose mandate is to expire by early next month. In this respect, Algeria's diplomacy chief, Ahmed Attaf, praised Abul Ghait for his efforts in advancing joint Arab action and congratulated Nabil Fahmy on his election as Secretary General of the Arab League, wishing him success in strengthening the organization's role and serving Arab states and peoples. Meanwhile, the Minister of State participated in the Arab consultative meeting held at Jordan's initiative to discuss the latest developments in the Middle East and the Gulf region and the growing challenges posed to regional security and stability. The Arab ministers held consultations and exchanged of views on the various crises and issues facing the region, mainly the Palestinian cause, as well as the recent developments in the Gulf and their repercussions on regional security and stability. They also examined how to strengthen a joint Arab action to defend common Arab causes and consolidate security and stability in the region.
On the sidelines of the Arab Consultative Meeting and the Arab League Council, Mr. Ahmed Attaf met with the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, Ms. Kaya Kayas. The meeting centered on the Algeria-European Union cooperation in all fields and stressed the need to activate bilateral mechanisms and implement upcoming commitments to raise relations. They also exchanged views on regional and international issues of common concern. Mr. Ahmed Attaf also held talks with his counterparts from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Kuwait, Sudan, Iraq, Tunisia and Libya, as well as with the Secretary General of the Arab League. The discussions focused on bilateral relations and ways to strengthen cooperation and coordination, in addition to regional developments in the Middle East and the Gulf. The talks also centered on the examining of a range of regional issues, including the situations in Sudan, Libya and Iraq, as well as a broader Arab affairs, with emphasis on supporting political solutions, national unity and territorial integrity. They also underscored the importance of de-escalation, strengthening joint Arab action and enhancing coordination to reinforce security and stability in the region. The Minister of State in charge of hydrocarbons, Mr. Mohammed Arkab, has received here a delegation from the International Monetary Fund, led by the head of the fund's mission to Algeria, Mr. Charalambos Tsanjadirs, conducted under Article 4 of the fund's Articles of Agreement. More details with Mohammed Khatil.
The meeting, held as part of regular consultations, was attended by the head of the National Agency for the Valorization of Hydrocarbon Resources, Mr. Samir Bakhti, and officials from the Ministry and the Bank of Algeria. On the occasion, the Minister of State presented an overview of the hydrocarbon sector, highlighting the reforms aimed at boosting investment, strengthening partnerships, and optimizing oil and gas resources, as well as efforts to expand production, refining, and value-added activities. He also highlighted the progress made in national and international investment programs in the hydrocarbon sector, particularly through Sonatrach-led projects with major global partners, stressing the importance of the Algeria Bid Round 2026 as a strategic step to attract investment and advanced technologies. In the context of energy transition, the minister highlighted Algeria's efforts through Sonatrach and its partners to reduce the carbon footprint of the oil and gas sector, develop low-emission technologies, promote low-carbon hydrogen and renewable energy, and advance the seawater desalination program to strengthen water security. The head of the International Monetary Fund mission, for his part, praised Algeria's efforts to develop the hydrocarbon sector and enhance its investment attractiveness, expressing interest in following the reforms and supporting economic stability and sustainable development. Both sides discussed the prospects for strengthening technical cooperation and exchange of expertise in oil and gas, digitalization, innovation, and localization of related industries and services, as well as training and human resources development.
In other development, Mr. Arkab has received a delegation from the German company Siemens Energy, led by the Vice President of Gas Services for Europe and Africa, Mr. Wahid Abbasi. The meeting centered on the examining of cooperation between Sonatrach and Siemens Energy, with both sides praising their advanced partnership in oil and gas services and energy technologies. The two sides also discussed ways of expanding cooperation in energy transition, including decarbonization decarbonization, emission reduction, energy efficiency, low-carbon hydrogen, and green ammonia, and the modernization of energy infrastructure through digitalization and smart technologies. Mr. Arkab stressed the importance of strengthening partnership with Siemens Energy to support Algeria's energy modernization, technology transfer, skill development, and efforts to reduce emissions, methane, and gas flaring. Mr. Abbasi reaffirmed Siemens Energy's readiness to support Algeria's hydrocarbon sector through innovative solutions, advanced technologies, and projects on decarbonization, digitalization, and improved performance. The UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, CRC, has warned against the alarming deteriorating of the protection of the Palestinian children on account of the restrictions imposed by the Israeli occupying authorities to human rights defense organizations in the occupied Palestinian territories. It firmly denounced the obstacles set by the occupying authorities to the human rights defenders' action, including raids, travel ban, and economic sanctions, as well as threats. Such repressive measures, it stressed, were undermining the organization's capacity to protect children and to get information about the violations they are subjected to. The CRC expressed its deep concerns at the impact of such measures, while recalling that these organizations have been playing for decades a fundamental role in the defense of the rights of the Palestinian children. Meanwhile, the Arab League affirmed that the Palestinian refugees issue remained the core of the Palestinian cause and reiterated its rejection of all forms of displacement of the Palestinian people. In a statement made on the occasion of the World Day of Refugees, it also rejected any dismantling project of UNRWA, saying it is supposed or opposed to attempt to reduce, abolish, or replace the UN agency vital role. In this connection, the Pan-Arab Organization stressed the necessity to continue providing a legal, financial, and political support to UNRWA and to support those countries who have or who host refugees. The United Nations has warned that the escalation of violence in and around the Sudanese city of Al Ubaid continues to expose civilians to increasing risks and disrupt essential services, renewing its call for the protection of civilians and civilian infrastructure. During a press briefing, UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric said that escalating violence in Al Ubaid and other parts of Sudan is endangering civilians and disrupting essential services, and reiterated the UN call to protect civilians and ensure humanitarian access.
Reports of escalating violence in and around Obayed, state capital of North Kordofan. Continued violence is putting civilians at increased risk and disrupting essential services. Our humanitarian colleagues tell us that drone attacks reportedly targeted multiple locations, including a power substation and a fuel station. According to the local medical group Sudan Doctors Network, the attacks forced the closure of several medical facilities in the city. They also reportedly caused the shutdown of water stations, further disrupting access to essential services for the population that is in Obayed. Drone strikes have also been reported in other parts of Sudan in recent days, including in North Darfur and White Nile states, causing civilian casualties and damage to civilian infrastructure. We reiterate once again our call on all parties to uphold their responsibilities under international law and international humanitarian law, which includes the protection of civilians and civilian infrastructure, and to facilitate rapid, safe, and unhindered humanitarian aid to whomever needs it, wherever they may be.
Mr. Dujarric noted that a cholera outbreak in West Kordofan is worsening due to limited access, insecurity, displacement, and poor water and sanitation services, adding that the United Nations and its partners are providing treatment, medical supplies, awareness campaigns, and treatment centers. Since April 2023, Sudan has been witnessing an armed conflict between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support paramilitary forces, which has killed thousands and displaced millions. The Algerian national football team defeated its Jordanian counterpart 2-1 after trailing 0-1 at halftime early today at Bay Area Stadium in San Francisco, USA, in the second round of Group X of the 2026 FIFA World Cup Finals. Jordan opened the scoring through midfielders Nizar Al-Rashdan in the 60th or 36th minute before Algeria equalized through substitute forward Nadir Ben Bouali in the 69th minute, with Amin Gouri scoring the winning goal in the 82nd minute. Following this result, the national team revived its chances of reaching the second round after its opening defeat against Argentina. With this win, Algeria moves up to the second place in Group X with 3 points, level with Austria, while Jordan remains fourth with no points after 2 defeats. For the third round, scheduled for Sunday, June 28th at 3 a.m. Algeria time, Algeria will play Austria at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. You have been listening to Radio Algeria International. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to this news edition of your weekly program, The Health Magazine. As summer approaches, the temperatures have already started to go up and many people are exposed to the risk of heat stroke, whether on the streets walking or laying on the beach enjoying a prolonged sunbath. Heat stroke is a form of hyperthermia or heat-related illness, an abnormally elevated body temperature with accompanying physical symptoms including changes in the nervous system function. Unlike heat cramps and heat exhaustions, 2 other forms of hyperthermia that are less severe, heat stroke is a true medical emergency that is often fatal if not properly and promptly treated. Heat stroke is also sometimes referred to as heat stroke or sunstroke. Severe hypothermia is defined as a body temperature of 40 degrees Celsius or higher. The body normally generates heat as a result of metabolism and is usually able to dissipate the heat by radiation of heat through the skin or by evaporation of sweat. However, in extreme heat, high humidity, or vigorous physical extension under the sun, the body may not be able to sufficiently dissipate the heat and the body temperature rises, sometimes up to 41.1 degrees Celsius or higher. Another cause of heat stroke is dehydration. A dehydrated person may not be able to sweat fast enough to dissipate heat, which causes the body temperature to rise. Heat stroke is not the same as a stroke. Stroke is a general term used to describe decreased oxygen flow to an area of the brain. The most susceptible individuals to heat stroke include infants, the elderly, often with associated heart diseases, lung diseases, kidney diseases, or who are taking medications that make them vulnerable to dehydration and heat strokes. Athletes, individuals who work outside and physically exert themselves under the sun, infants, children, or pets left in cars. Heat stroke or insolation is sometimes classified as exertional hot stroke, EHS, which is due to overexertion in hot weather, or non-exertional heat stroke, and EHS, which occurs in climatic extremes and affects the elderly, infants, and chronically ill. Now, what are heat stroke symptoms and signs? Symptoms of heat stroke can sometimes mimic those of heart attack or other conditions. Sometimes a person experiences symptoms of heat exhaustion before progressing to heat strokes. Signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion include nausea, vomiting, fatigue, weakness, headache, muscle cramps and aches, and dizziness. However, some individuals can develop symptoms of heat stroke suddenly and rapidly without warning. Different people may have different symptoms and signs of heat stroke. Common symptoms and signs of heat strokes include high body temperature, the absence of sweating with hot, red, or flushed dry skin, rapid pulse, difficulty breathing, strange behavior, hallucinations, confusion, agitation, disorientation, seizure, and/or coma. Can infants, children, and teens suffer from heat stroke? While the elderly are at greatest risk for heat stroke, infants and children are also at risk. In particular, infants or young children who are unattended in locked cars may suffer heat-related illness quickly, since the indoor temperature of a locked car can rise to dangerous levels even in moderate weather. Rarely, infants have died of heat stroke when overly bundled in their cribs. It is critically important that parents understand the medical dangers inherent in leaving children unattended in cars in addition to the obvious safety risks. Further, cars should always be kept locked when not in use so that children may not enter them and become trapped. Among older children and teens, heat stroke or heat-related illness is a risk for athletes who train in hot environmental conditions. Among reported heart-related illnesses in U.S. high school athletes, the majority of cases occur in football players during the month of August. First and treatment for heat stroke. Victims of heat stroke must receive immediate treatment to avoid permanent organ damage. First and foremost, call the victim. Get the victim to a shady area, remove clothing, apply cool or tepid water to the skin. For example, you may spray the person with cool water from a garden hose, fan the victim to promote sweating and evaporation, and place ice packs under the armpits and groin. If the person is able to drink liquids, have them drink cool water or other cool beverages that do not contain alcohol or caffeine. Monitor body temperature with the thermometer and continue cooling efforts until the body temperature drops to 38.3 to 38.8 degrees Celsius. Always notify emergency services immediately. If their arrival is delayed, they can give you further instructions for treatment of the victim. Finally, how can heat stroke be prevented? The most important measures to prevent heat strokes are to avoid becoming dehydrated and to avoid vigorous physical activities in hot and humid weather. If you have to perform physical activities in hot weather, drink plenty of fluids, such as water and sports drinks, but avoid alcohol and caffeine, including soft drinks and tea, which may lead to dehydration. Your body will need replenishment of electrolytes, such as sodium, as well as fluids, if you sweat excessively or perform vigorous activity in the sunlight for prolonged periods. Take frequent breaks to hydrate yourself. Wear hats and light-colored, lightweight, loose clothes. Keep cars locked when not in use, and never, ever leave infants, children, or pets unattended in a locked car. Those were some measures to be taken in order to prevent heat strokes, especially in summertime and in Algeria in particular, which is considered a country with relatively hot weather. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the Health Magazine. Do join us next week for another edition of our program with another subject that deals with your health and well-being.
Welcome to your weekly program, Destination Algeria. I'm Jamal Salmani. There are a number of great destinations in Algeria just waiting to be discovered. A curious of mixtures of cultures and influences, Algeria has something interesting to see in just about every city. The country is also the first largest on the African continent, so you can be sure that there are plenty of towns and cities to visit. Let's visit Algeria's fascinating destinations, you and I, together. The ancient city of Tebessa is the capital city of the Algerian province of the same name, as it is situated about 20 kilometers from the Tunisian border. According to Algeria.com website, the city is famous for the manufacture of traditional Algerian carpets. Tebissa has a long and diverse history with many interesting sites for visitors to explore. Tebissa started off as a town of Numidia, an ancient North African Berber kingdom. In the 7th century before Christ, it became an outpost of Carthage, and by 146 CE, it had become part of the Roman Empire, becoming known by the name of Thevest. The flourishing city, with an estimated 30,000 inhabitants, was given the designation of Colonia during the rule of Roman Emperor Trajan. Under the Ottoman Empire, which reached the zenith of its power in the 16th and 17th century, Thevest was home to the garrison of Janissaries, infantry units of the Sultan's household bodyguard troops. In 1851, the city was occupied by the French and was given the current name Tebissa. In and around Tebissa are many monuments and remains of ancient buildings relating to the city's past. The Gate of Caracalla is a Roman triumphal arch dating back to 214 CE. Freestanding, ornately decorated triumphal arches were erected as a monument to celebrate a victory in war or in honor of their leader at the time of the victory. The richly mosaic-decorated Temple of Minerva in Tebissa dates back to the early part of the 3rd century CE. The remains of the Basilica of St. Crispinus, complete with chapels, baptismal urns, gardens, and catacombs, dates back to the 4th century.